right, good morning. It's Friday the 13th, so we're going to start in our less dominant cross-legged position and just spend a little time adjusting your seated position so that you feel really balanced right and left, that you feel really anchored into the legs. You find your sitting bones anchoring down. And try to really detect that you're not gripping in your groins or your hips. Give yourself support if you need it. And then just take a moment to adjust your shoulders to align with your hips and to bring the shoulder blades towards the chest, creating a lifting and a spreading across the chest. And then see if you can keep your shoulders back as you join the hands in front of the heart and close the eyes. Letting your gaze point down away from your brain. Bringing attention into the body, into the breath. Excuse me. Just taking enough time to really bring yourself into a closer state of presence. Acknowledging how you're arriving onto your mat this morning, energetically, physically, emotionally, mentally. And as you feel ready, lowering your chin toward your chest, but also lifting the chest toward the chin. Releasing your hands, and as you're ready, lifting your head, letting your eyes gently come open. Welcome. So we're actually going to come right to standing this morning and begin our practice that way, because the forward bending practice really does originate from the standing work. So we're going to come right up to standing and we're going to warm up the spine from standing position. And the first thing I wanted us to do is come into breath of joy, which is a 3-part inhale and a long extended exhale. And one of the reasons I thought this would be useful today is because forward bending, we can get into kind of a brooding state or a sluggish state. And so breath of joy really helps us to bring energy up into the body and up into the brain and get us kind of invigorated. So it's 3-part inhale, 1 long exhalation. And the inhale has some arm movements that go with it. And I usually say in my brain to remember front, side, up. So it's sniffing through the nose, 3 little sniffs. This is all 1 inhale. And then exhale, you're going to fold forward and just dangle, and your knees will probably have to bend. You're going to wait here in this forward bend as long as you're breathing out. And then you're going to slowly roll yourself up. Put your shoulders above your hips. Exhale, and then you're going to begin again. So that was just kind of a practice run. We'll do another one together. Sniffing through the nose, 3 little sips of inhale, all 1 breath. Front side up with the arms. Exhale, lengthen forward. Dangling there to encourage the full exhale to eliminate. When you're ready to breathe in, use the in-breath to bring you up. Put your shoulders away, exhale there. And so you're going to kind of branch off on your own, moving with your own breath. Front side up, exhale, coming forward, dangle, inhale to come up. Exhale to reset the shoulders. Sniff, sniff, sniff. We'll do 3 more on our own. Last one. wait for everybody to meet us in a standing position. We're going to move laterally next. So we're going to take kind of a side crescent, but modified side crescent. So you can just kind of press your left arm against your side body, raise the right arm, and feel balanced on your feet. And on an exhalation, extending the right hand toward the left and just kind of taking this crescent shape with your spine. And the idea is that we can elongate the right side body, but without completely collapsing the left side body. So with every inhale, just to see if you can re-invite some space to that shorter left side body. Keeping your feet really evenly balanced. And on an in-breath, you can just use your top arm to raise you back out of that lateral movement with your spine. You're going to press the right arm, kind of hand next to your hip or thigh, and bring the left arm up. And on an exhalation, lengthen to the right, elongating the left side body, but also maintaining some amount of spaciousness to the right side body, keeping the feet really balanced. And using the in-breath to lift you up and out of there. You can bring the arm down for now. We're going to take the right hand to the opposite side waist. So it's behind your body, back of the hand to the opposite side waist, to your left side waist. And then raise your left arm. And on an exhalation, you're just turning your chest to the right, but try to keep your hips level, like your sacrum is up against a wall and is evenly pressing there. We're not trying to rotate the right hip back. If anything, you have to encourage it to stay forward. Just spreading your chest to the right. Taking just a few more breaths in this beautiful spinal rotation from standing. On an in-breath, lengthen out of that rotation, and now you can relax the left arm down. Take the left back of your hand to the right side waist, behind your back. Raise the right arm, and on an exhalation, turning to the left. So again, try to imagine that the sacrum is staying really even, right to left, that it's not farther back on the left side than it is on the right. Turning in the upper spine more than the lower spine. Good. Last exhale, and use your in-breath to come out of it, lifting yourself back, releasing both arms to your sides and stepping into mountain pose. So join the feet if you can support it balance-wise, and kind of taking the notes from last week with so much emphasis on the feet. This is really how we create a strong standing practice that evolves into a forward bending practice. So we want to feel the spaciousness of the feet, the balance of the feet, shoulders, of course, in line with the hips. Close your eyes. And we're just going to talk about how we're facing gravity this way. Of course, gravity presses down on us. Yoga is all about equalizing. And so rather than letting gravity kind of press you into the floor, we begin the work of really lifting out of those feet up into the legs. And with every inhale, I want you to imagine, I'm kind of thinking of that game at the carnival where you pound something on the ground and you see the little, it's like a thermometer, it shoots up. So every time you inhale, I want you to kind of feel that you're kind of lifting the energy up the legs. It's continuing to flow up the body. Until you feel like you're reaching the upper body, you're starting to move towards the head, and eventually you're going to be bringing that lifting sense of energy all the way out through the top of your head. We're creating vertical extension that kind of equalizes the effects of gravity pressing us in the other direction. And now you're going to maintain this, open your eyes, and just add a little more verticality by raising the arms, reaching through the fingertips. Remind your shoulders that they're part of your grounded body, so they're not munching on your ears, they're staying engaged with the trunk. And really extend through your fingertips. lengthen from your feet all the way up through your fingertips. So the idea in forward bending is that we take this vertical extension as we start to make ourselves more compact and folded shapes. We're going to try to keep a sense of fluidity from the feet through the crown of the head, through the fingertips, through the hands sometimes. Okay, so go ahead and release the arms down. And we're going to start to take these principles into forward folding Uttanasana. But I want you to start with the back of a chair. So hopefully you have a chair nearby. You're just going to be using the back of it. It doesn't have to be a special chair. So just grab something that you can use to rest your wrists on. So you're going to be resting the wrists on the higher part of the chair. And this is kind of give us kind of a halfway stopping point where we can feel this line of energy starting to take on an arc, but we're not going to lose it. We're not going to, my name for this week of class was bending without breaking, and we don't want to break this fluid energy line as we fold. So the chair is going to be in front of you, the higher part. You're going to raise the arms again. You can separate the feet just to get a little more stability here. And just take a few breaths, bringing that energy up in your body. And when you meet the top of the next inhalation, start to lengthen forward. You might need to adjust your footing so that you're the proper distance from the chair so that you can kind of be a 90-degree angle at the hips and your legs are vertical. And I want you to spend a little time here now. You have to kind of bring that energy in more of a arcing pattern. And sometimes it breaks off in the midsection of the body. So really lift with your legs and spread the abdominal wall back in a soft way, not in a gripping way or hardened way. So every time you breathe in, spread the abdominal wall back towards the back body. And now if you can take your hands to a lower part of the chair, you're going to do that. But you're really watching that you're maintaining this fluidity that starts at your feet, travels up the legs, moves to the kind of over the midsection of the body and down the trunk and eventually to the head and the hands. Notice the relationship the feet have with the floors, like we talked so much about last week. Try to keep it one of kind of a softness, a suppleness, not a clinging or a shrinking. Also a balanced weight-bearing pattern in your feet using all the surface area, the heels, ball mounds, and toes. And now maybe the hands go to the floor or to blocks. Maybe you're going to stay in using the chair, but you're going to come into your deepest version of standing forward bend, where you feel like you're starting at the feet, traveling up the legs, and moving to the torso, and eventually placing weight in the hands. So we lift with the feet, we press with the hands. Keep spreading the abdominal wall back so that you can close the gap between your chest and your thighs. Okay, now begin to come out of it by bending your knees. Use your stomach muscles to support your spine and try to come up with a nice straight spine. And step yourself back into mountain pose. Closing your eyes. Wonderful. So now we're going to kind of take what we just did and we're going to eliminate one of our feet, one of our roots, essentially, which means the leg that remains on the floor for Warrior 3 has to take on that upward energy even more so. We're going to keep using the chair, so you can keep that right in front of you as you did for that Ardha Uttanasana, that half forward bend. So come close enough to the chair that you can put fingertips on it. And you're going to be first weight bearing on your right foot. So just see that your toes align with your heel. You're not toeing out or in. And then you're going to step your left big toe back. And right away, you can see what happens in the body. We tend to overload or dump into our standing leg. We tend to kind of start to feel like we're flying away like a kite in the breeze with the left leg. So we're going to give an upward lightness to the standing leg. We're going to give some false weight to the eventual aerial leg. So lift up with your right leg, but start to pick up the left toes and reach out through the bottom of the foot. So you're taking on some extension toward the floor with left leg and away from the floor with right leg. This will equalize you. Notice how this is going to support the lower back. You're not hanging dead weight off of your lower back. As you're able to, you're going to lengthen forward towards more of that capital letter T shape. But you're observing that you're not breaking this fluidity in the body, also that you're not breaking in the middle. So nobody cares if you look like capital letter T. It's really about how you feel. So let the poses be led by sensation, not shape, is kind of a common adage in yoga. Sensation, not shape. So reach out through the left foot, lift up with the right leg, and just kind of take a few more breaths, just imprinting that on the body. These look really good from my little gallery. You guys look great. Okay, and on an in-breath, lift through the crown, reach down through the left foot, and place yourself back in mountain pose. Just take a moment to shake out your legs. So we have this chair, and of course, when we do this on a different class and you don't have the chair, that action is going to give you so much stability. So it's really wonderful to learn these things with extra support so that when you don't have the supports, the body remembers how to do that. So again, we're going to just kind of step into the left foot with intention. Step your right big toe back. And just right away, notice the habit. What happens? We have that flying away feeling with the right leg, dumping downward energy on the left. So go ahead and reverse that. Lift your left leg up and start to extend through the right heel, the ball mounds. Begin to take the foot away from the floor, but keep the extension strong. Lengthen forward, your hips are level. Don't let that doggy at the fire hydrant thing happen. Keep your hips pointing evenly to your chair. And take on as much of the T shape as you can, but you're really trying to sense the pose rather than create a shape. And with just as much extension, you're going to inhale and come back upright. Okay, so now without the chair, with the chair aside, give your legs a refresh. Just kind of kick them out, shake them out. Hands to the heart center, which kind of keeps your center of gravity a little bit more stable. Hands to the heart center. We're back to the right foot weight bearing. You're going to step your left big toe back. Lift with your right leg, extend out through the bottom of the left foot. Come to the top of an in-breath. On your exhale, begin to lift the left foot away from the floor. And then inhale yourself back upright. Lower the left foot, relax the arms, shake the legs out. Good. We're going to do this one more time now. Left foot is weight bearing. Hands to the heart center. Right big toe steps back. And you have to give the legs a sense of purpose, like marching orders. We have to tell the body what it's going to do. Eventually it does it on its own. So lift with your left leg, extend out through the bottom of the right foot. Begin to lengthen forward. Good, and come back out of it. And now step yourself back into mountain. Shake those legs out first if you need to. Join the big toes if you can. Adjust yourself into mountain pose with the shoulders aligning above the hips. And just take the midline of the buttocks toward the front body as you press your thighs from front to back. And adjust the skull so that it's really centered up above the spine. Lengthen from the chin up to the base of the skull. And always go back to the feet. Your Just study the feet and how they're meeting the floor. Good. So we're going to open the eyes. We're going to come into Prasarita Paratanasana. And this is a standing forward bend that we can really overwhelm the legs and kind of lose that ability to lift. So we're going to use the chair again as a way to really create the lightness that we need in the legs to support the full extension of the torso. So the chair, we're going to start with the high part facing us. Eventually we'll turn it around and use the lower part. And then you're going to step your feet nice and wide. So ideally one of your legs can fit between your feet is the equilateral triangle shape we're going for here. And then just remember from last week, the feet tend to roll out here. We tend to lose surface area. So see if you can bring the broadness back to the ball mounds. You're feeling the inner and outer heel. Your pinky toe isn't completely rolled underneath itself. So all those feet actions still have to happen here. Lift your legs. Lift the torso out of the legs. And then extend forward, and you're going to take the chair and rest the wrists on the high part of the chair so that your palms face. And then just kind of imagine that someone's holding your hips and they're just gently lifting up, because we tend to collapse a little bit into the legs. So keep a really nice lift on the hips. Keep the legs as fully extended as you can. Keep track of your feet. And notice how with this kind of half position here, we're gathering space in the torso. Good. That fluidity, each in-breath, you're lifting the energy line up the body. It has to fold in the middle and extend out through the torso, crown, and hands. So make sure you're not kind of breaking off in the middle somewhere. And then maintaining the wise actions, you're going to be working with the lower part of the chair. You can turn it around, or if you're a backless chair, you can go right down. And you're going to rest your head somehow, maybe cross your arms, maybe stack your fists. And with every inhale, just reinforce that upward moving energy along the legs. These are your stems. And let the extension and the deep forward bend come as a byproduct, not because you're forcing your trunk down or forcing your head down. Make the legs the most important piece of the puzzle here. Just about 4 more breaths. And now to come out of it, begin to lift your head. You can kind of anchor into your hands, bring some weight forward if you need to, start to walk the feet in. And then bring yourself up, and you can put your chair out of the way. I think we're done with it. Yes, we are. And we're going to come into some seated forward bends. So we learned the forward bends standing, and then they become a little more challenging as we start to take them into seated positions. So we're going to start with a blanket underneath the sitting bones. And also have a second blanket available to support Janu Shirshasana when we get there. And also have your strap. And once you're sitting down, you can extend your legs in Dandasana, which is the staff pose. The staff refers to the spine. And that spinal energy is only as good as your legs. So this pose is namesake is about the spine, but the unsung hero is the legs, really. So we're going to adjust the legs with both hands to each thigh. So grab hold of one of your thighs, rotate the outer thigh up, the inner thigh down. Do that on both sides. And then if you have bulkier calf muscles, you might need to run your fingertips along the back of the leg to kind of bifurcate the muscle and let it sit down a little bit more closely so that you get good contact with the floor. So we're going to use the strap first and just reinforce the direction of energy in the legs, which is still going to move from the feet towards the hips. When we're sitting, you might sense that you're pushing away with the heels away from the hips, and we want to correct that right away because this wave of energy moves from the feet out through the crown. So grab hold of your feet where the intersection of the heels and arches are, which will reinforce your femur heads into the hip joints. And then grab your strap in a way that you're wrapping your knuckles and your elbows can be directly in line with your shoulders. You're not having to round the shoulders forward. So elbows are right under your shoulders. And now just pull. And kind of give those legs some purpose. Tell those legs what they're to do. You should feel the heels scrubbing toward the body, not away. And then notice if that gives the torso any more inspiration to extend forward. You might be able to sense that you're drawing the energy up the legs and it's coming into the torso. We're going to feel kind of a lengthening feeling and extension in the torso. Sometimes when we can't learn something with the wise actions, we can learn it with the wrong actions. So let go of that effort and just see if you notice your feet pushing away from you and your spine collapse. So sometimes if we don't get it when we're trying to learn the wise action, we can kind of get it when we do the opposite action. So hopefully one of those two worked for you. So we're going to keep working with that action in our legs. However, with Jani Shirshasana, we take away one of those Dandasana legs. So we're going to take our 8 fingers and just take hold behind the inner right knee and drag the heel in close to the upper inner thigh. And then if you see that your right knee is floating in space, give it some sort of propping so that the prop meets the knee and the knee can rest. And then you're going to drag your left heel toward your hip without that strap. You're going to do it on your own now, which helps you also turn the trunk to face the left leg. So take a moment to pull that left heel toward the left hip. Good. Go back to grabbing your strap and take hold of the bottom of the foot again, right where the arch of the foot meets the heel. Good. Begin in the same way, wrapping your hands, aligning your elbows with your shoulders, moving the foot toward the hip joint, feeling the way that that flows over in the upper body. Start to tilt forward, extend forward. And then eventually you're going to go to your maximum here. So that might mean closing the space between your hands and the foot. You might be able to grab the foot directly and bow over that left leg. But keep moving the direction of energy from the left heel toward the left hip. Even if it's trying to push in the opposite direction, you're going to correct that and you're going to try to feel how it feeds the extension of the torso. So it's like the shadow of your nose is drifting closer and closer to your foot. So a lot of times in this pose, we talk about the other leg. We talk about the action of the bent knee. Today, I really wanted to point out how we can leverage this straight leg to create a deeper pose. Let's take a few more breaths here. And now you're going to just kind of lift yourself out, look forward first, use the in-breath, come all the way up. Standing your right knee up, right foot down, extending your right leg. Give your legs a little shake, a little refresh. And then as you're ready, taking the 8 fingers behind the inner left knee, just kind of dragging it back. Keep the knee low, try not to have it fly up super high. And bring the heel in as close as you can to the upper inner thigh. Prop that knee if you see it floating or you can feel the gripping in the hip or the groin. Have some soft prop meeting that knee, holding it there. And then without your strap, you might put your hands down, but without your strap, pull that right heel in toward the hip. Notice how it helps you turn the torso, and it brings a different sensation to the pose. Good. And then take your strap and place it to the arch of the foot near the heel. And take on that starting position where you can maintain the spread of the chest, elbows right under the shoulder, you might wrap your hands. And keeping that right heel moving toward the hip, start to let that feed the extension of the torso. You're starting to spread the trunk over the leg. And eventually there'll be a point in the pose where you're going to just kind of close the gap between your chest and your thigh. You might bring your hands closer to your foot. You might grab onto the foot directly. Come right to your maximum in your head to knee pose. And just let this really be about continuing the movement from the heel to the hip. Everything else is just a great kind of byproduct. Let the effort really be in the action of the leg, the wave of energy starting at the foot. Good. Last exhale. And then to come out, look forward, follow the inhale all the way up to keep that sense of spaciousness. It's important to come out of our poses as intentionally as we come in. Standing up the left knee and extending the left leg. Give them a little shake. Okay. So Asana. Both hands come underneath the right knee. And you're just going to step the right heel in. So it's in front of the sitting bone, and that you're still feeling the upright nature of the lower back. You haven't slumped into a curly C-shaped spine. You're sitting up tall. You even have maybe a concave lumbar. That's great. And we're going to come into this forward bend by way of a twist first. So placing your left hand next to your hip. Raise your right arm. And then drop the right elbow inside the right knee and press the two together to help you turn and spread your chest to the left. And you're going to take the left hand so it's right behind you, right behind your lower back. You might need a block under your hand so you don't have to lean back. And now again, pull your left heel toward your left hip. Notice how it gives you a little more freedom in the torso if you can drag that left heel toward the hip rather than push it away from you. And just like when we did a standing twist, let the twist be really more mobilizing in the upper back. So try not to let your left hip tilt back. Keep your left sacrum as forward as your right sacrum. Okay, and now just do a test. You're going to let yourself out of the twist about halfway. And see if you can reach with the right hand to the inner left foot. Some of us will be able to grab that. Other people are going to have to go back and grab the strap. So either way, if you can grab directly, you can of course take your left hand onto the foot as well. Otherwise, you're going to take the strap and grab both ends of the strap. And pulling on the strap or the foot, reinforce the direction of energy along the left leg, from the heel to the hip. Keep squeezing your right knee against your shoulder. Don't let it flop out. Keep some weight to the inner right foot. Come to the top of an in-breath. On the exhale, extend over the torso, but remember that's happening only because of what you're doing with that left leg. Feed that wave of energy from the foot to the hip, over the back, off, crown of the head. One continuous wave. And maybe if you're not getting it, see what happens when you push that left heel away from your hip. The chest contracts, we feel shortened in the trunk. Good, so just kind of playing with the wise actions. Maybe playing with the wrong actions to feel it. Look forward, see if you can engage your stomach muscles, raise both arms up, come up, and then lower the arms. Extend your right leg, shake your legs out. Sliding both hands behind the left knee. The heel comes in only as close as you can maintain that really nice presence over your sitting bones. Your lower back is flat or even concave. And then the right hand sits next to the hip as we raise the left arm. On an exhale, drop that left elbow inside that left knee, pressing the two together so they're not going anywhere. Take your right hand right behind you so it's centered. And rather than just yanking on the spine, use the action of the right heel drawing to the right hip to help you turn. Soften your gaze. Don't let this be about the neck. If it's helpful, close the eyes. And remember, we don't want that right sacrum tilting back, so keep it forward, let the chest really mobilize. The thoracic is mobilized. Keep dragging that right heel toward the hip line. And you're going to keep some of this twist, but you're going to let go of a little bit so that you can turn to face your right leg. And do that test again. Just reach forward with the left hand. See if you can make contact with the inner right foot. If so, you can also grab the outer foot with the right hand. Otherwise, you're going to use the strap and connect right there where the arch meets the heel. And whether you're pulling on strap or foot directly, pull back. So foot moves toward the hip, and we feel an opening and a lengthening and a spaciousness in the torso. We're feeding that wave. Just enjoy that for a few breaths. And then at the instinct of the body, the inner cueing, you're going to bow forward and come to your maximum Asana, forward bend. But really make this about the action of that working right leg. Everything else is secondary to that. Finish up your exhalation. And when you're ready to breathe in, look forward, lift your arms, come all the way up. Release your arms. Extend your leg. Give your legs a little shake. Good. All right. We're going to keep working with some forward bends, but now we're moving on to our backs. And you're going to take Supta Tadasana. So you're reclining mountain pose, which doesn't mean you're in Shavasana because Tadasana has active legs. That's mountain pose. So your legs are active. So you're going to lie down on your back. You can use a thin blanket for your head if you tend to have your chin waving in the air. Most of us are used to pillows, so you might need a little height under your head. But put your legs in Tadasana shape, meaning they're joined. Your toes are in line with your heels. Your kneecaps are looking straight up. Centers of your thighs are parallel with each other. And you're gripping your quadriceps. You're stabilizing your knees. You're lengthening the backs of the knees. You're lengthening the backs of the ankles. The legs should be working here and probably getting tired. Go ahead and extend your arms up so that they're resting on the floor, but you're really reaching out through the fingertips. And just again, imagine that carnival game, which I wish I knew the name of, but every time you breathe in, you're just kind of moving the energy from the feet closer to the crown, closer to the fingertips. So you have to be here about 5 breaths, just to kind of imagine that journey. And now I want you to just let everything go, let your feet flop out, let your palms face up, give up all the effort. And we're about to play with a couple inversions, meaning that the idea of the energy moving from the feet to the crown is going to be inverted. So now the legs are about to be our kind of lifting energy toward the ceiling, and our upper body is going to be the grounded body. So just begin by bending your knees and stepping your feet to the floor. And we're going to keep the arms overhead, but you're going to press the backs of your hands to the floor, and you're going to really be extending well through the fingertips. And now treat your hands like you were treating your feet, and draw your hands towards your shoulders. So you're bringing that same action of moving, instead of pushing your fingernails away from your body, draw your fingernails towards your shoulders. And then start to raise the feet one at a time. And then start to extend the legs. Good, so keeping the upper body really stabilizing, keeping the fingernails moving towards the shoulders. You're gonna start to lower your legs towards the floor, or Prasarita Paratanasana. This is really engaging the abdominals here. And just see how far you can get without uprooting the lower back, without uprooting the upper body, without uprooting the neck. Keep your chin tilted down. And also without breaking the flow of your breathing. And when you get to that peak, you might hold it for a breath, and then you're gonna bend the knees and just hug the legs into the body. You might grab from behind the thighs, you might grab over the shins. It's a personal preference. So instead of letting the legs fall into the center body, you have to now lift them away from the center body. We've inverted the whole concept. So we've switched the action of the legs and arms. They're trading places for the inversions. So we'll do it again just to kind of reinforce it. Send the arms overhead, press the backs of the hands on the ground. Kind of scrub your fingers towards your shoulders and lift the legs. And rather than letting the weight of the legs fall into the center body, you have to lift out of the center body, flowing the energy from the hands now out through the feet. Start to lower the legs, engage the abdominals. The wave of energy is moving from the hands through the feet. So don't let it get caught in the back, because the abdominals have to save your back. Keep the back really spreading, keep the abdominals really spreading to the back. Maybe hovering in that really peak zone for a breath or two. And then as you need to, bend the knees and hug it in. So this one we don't do when we're pregnant, which I don't think anybody is that I know of. We don't do it when we're menstruating, because it really is about solid abdominals and constricting abdominal space. So now that I said that afterwards, hopefully we're all in the clear. So to wring out the spine and soften the abdominals, let's do a little windshield wipering with the legs. So place your feet wide. Let your knees angle toward each other, or even touch if you want. Hands on your belly. And then letting the feet rock from side to side. So you're going to let the knees fall in one direction, head will roll to the other, and then move to center with both knees and head, and then let the knees drift sideways. You're rocking on your feet. So I think it's Vern, maybe your feet are too narrow. Step your feet wide, and your knee, there you go. And you're going to be rocking on the feet. That'll be easier. Good, keep going. So we're going to do one more inversion to kind of just take the whole concept and flip it over so that we can learn it in another direction in the body. But before we do Chatush Padasana, which will be the kind of the main inversion, we're going to do bridge pose just to reinforce the actions of a little bit more challenging inversion. So with the feet still on the ground, bring them just a little closer together so they're only hip distance apart. And then walk the heels in toward the sitting bones. And if you're using a blanket, it's best to get rid of it for bridge pose. Make sure your toes are in front of your heels. And then lift your hips high enough you can grab your hips, and you're manually not only tilting the pelvis back, like you're drinking coffee, it's the same action, but you're moving the flesh of the buttocks away from the back body. It's going to help you close the gap between your small of your back and the floor. So bring it down. Keep that gap really minimized or sealed off. Keep the pelvic tilt action going. And then press your hands down to the floor so your arms are perfectly straight. You're spreading the fingers wide. You're pushing your shoulders into the floor so that you have as much shoulder girdle contact as you can get, and you're lifting your shoulder blades into your chest. Rock your head so that the neck elongates towards the floor, very similar to the action of the lower back. And then on an exhale, lift your hips. Take the tailbone into the body toward the ceiling, but try to relax the buttocks. Relax the buttocks by stepping the feet into the floor. So even though the legs aren't inverted yet, we're not trying to bring the legs into the body. We're trying to bring the legs into the floor. So really press the legs towards the floor here. It'll help you take the tailbone up. Soften your face, soften your buttocks, roll your inner thighs down. And every time you breathe in, lift the chest a little bit higher and lift the shoulder blades into the chest. Take one more in-breath here, lifting any amount higher, and then lengthen the spine back to the floor on the exhale, one vertebra at a time, like you're spreading out those little points between each bead along the spine. Let the sacrum come down fully and drop into the floor and restore your lumbar curve. And now come back to reclining child's pose just to release the spine. So we did a little back bend, now do a little forward bend in child's pose, couple breaths. And again, your choice to grab from behind the thighs or over the shins. And if your body is asking for it, separate the knees, opening up the groins and hips and helping you spread the shoulders. Good. So the Supta Tadasana that we're about to do, there's a big potential to hang up energy in the midsection. So you have to lift with your legs. You have to support the downward energy with the torso really engaging down. So you're going to step your feet back to the floor and find your block. And whatever height of block you're working with, we have low, we have medium, we have tall. Whatever height of block you're going to work with the block running with the spine rather than crossing the spine, meaning you're working with a vertically oriented block. So it's either going to be flat, low, medium, or tall. But we're going to be placing it under the sacrum and tailbone. And you might not know what height you need. You might have to Goldilocks it for a few moments. So when we start to get in this tall position, I don't want you to really crane your neck to the side. So I want you to keep looking at the ceiling and just kind of listen to my voice. And hopefully the instructions won't be too difficult that you have to crank your neck around to look and see. So once you position the block, try to clasp your hands together so that you can really extend your arms completely and you can get your pinkies down on the floor. We don't want bent elbows or floating hands. That's not a very good support. So we want fully extended arms and grounded hands. Your shoulder blades are lifting and your shoulders are descending into the floor. Take the tailbone into the soft tissue of the body towards the ceiling. Begin to pick up your legs one by one. And then as you extend the legs, you might sense gravity, what it's doing to the legs. It's pushing toward your center body. Your job is to equalize that, reach away from the center body with the legs, up through the ball mounds, the toes, the heels, as you keep the upper body as your base. So now we have a wave of energy from the head that moves all the way in this beautiful arc up to the ceiling. It doesn't get broken in the middle. And if you're finding that's too challenging and it's getting broken in the middle, you might need to drop your block. You might need to keep working on bridge pose. Don't let your ego be an obstacle in your practice. Nobody cares what version you're doing. It's if you're doing it and it's blissful versus if you're doing it and you're waiting for it to end. You have to create your own experience. And now from the Chatushpadasana, bend the knees, step your feet to the floor one at a time, safer for the back. Separate your hands, lift your hips high enough you can move your block out of the way. walk your spine down to the floor. And before we come into Shavasana, you're going to just finish with a supine twist. So spread your arms out in each direction, perpendicular from the trunk. And then crossing your left leg over your right leg. And then lifting the hips high enough, you can tuck your right hip to the center of the mat underneath you, and the left hip comes above that. The legs fall to the right. The right hand holds down that top leg, so your legs have some security. They can stop they can stop effort. They can be passive. And then your head rolls left to complete your twist. And if your shoulder hates this, just drape that left hand over your side waist until you're ready to unfurl the arm and extend through the fingertips. The more dense and heavy you can tap into with the legs, that denseness, that heaviness, the more willing the spine will be to wring out, to become supple, to twist deeper. Relax any tension between your thighs. Sometimes we go really deep here, so it's important to transition safely. So if you become very supple, especially with the spine, make sure to just slightly engage your stomach muscles as you unwrap your legs and come back to center. So you're stabilizing the spine. You don't want to transition in a way that's going to harm your spine. And then shift yourself back to center. Align yourself on your mat first. Grow the arms in each direction sideways. Cross the right leg over the left. And then tucking your left hip under you, drop your legs to the left, and use your left hand to hold that top right leg. So you're giving the legs a sense of surrender, sense of support. Your head rolls to the right to complete this spinal twist from tailbone to brainstem. And then the rest of the work is just kind of identifying where the body is still a little bit not on board, a little bit resistant. And can you get these areas to soften? And if so, the body will respond in a positive way. The spine will release more. Meanwhile, the connective tissue of that right hip is really getting a nice chance to break up tension. The breath might start to feel like it's opening the outer hip space. And at your own cueing, you're going to use those stomach muscles. You're going to come back to center. And you're going to take any other movements that your body is asking for before the final resting pose of stillness, of passivity, of ease. And you're also going to take this time to just grab anything that might be useful for your Shavasana. You might want a blanket to keep yourself warm. You might want an eye covering. We're going to have a 5-minute Shavasana today, very luxurious. You might want to put something behind your knees like a bolster or a folded blanket. Might want to turn some lights off. So set yourself up so that you can really quiet the body, which of course influences the mind, to quiet as well. So the practice is really about space. Finding space in the body, finding space in more compact poses. And the space that we find starts to show up in the mind as space between thoughts. It's been said that our true selves exist in the space between the thoughts, not in the thoughts themselves. Space between breaths. As the body releases tension, as the mind releases tension, you might start to notice there's pausing. There's these moments where the body is completely sated by breath. We don't have to breathe in or out. We have these pauses, these gaps. You don't have to do anything willfully here. Just observe, just notice. Becoming soft. Let the skin soften. Let the organic body soften. Let the sense organs soften. Let go of all those little gripping muscles in your face that create those social masks that we all wear. Just imagine your face releasing from the hairline all the way to the chin. Rather than dictating the breath or directing the breath, just imagine your little piece of driftwood. You're just rolling on the surface of that breath, the peaks, the valleys, those gaps between the peaks and valleys. Feel yourself as one continuous whole wave of energy, just like a drop of water isn't separated from that big sea. It's a collective experience. Notice how your breathing happens, whether or not you're dictating it or even aware of it. Just another minute. And just take the next few breaths and elongate the breaths. And again, the idea that you're drawing the breath from the feet to the crown, one continuous seamless breath. Little U-turn at the head, and then exhaling all the way back down the entire body. Maybe repeat that one more time. Maybe go back to your easy, unconditioned breathing. And allowing some movement to start to trickle in from the outermost points of your physical body, traveling inwards. Eventually allowing your arms to bend, your knees to bend. Eventually easing yourself to one side of your body. And then from there, taking the support of the floor through the hands, pressing into the floor to bring yourself up. Putting yourself in an upright, seated position. coming full circle by joining the hands in front of the heart. And just taking a moment to notice that we come up slightly changed. Take a moment to notice the effects of your practice on your body, on your mind, on your heart, on your energy. Let's take a breath in together through the nose and let it go. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. Right. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. Have a great weekend. And we'll be doing some back extensions next week. So stay tuned. We'll see you soon.